Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I really want to get away from the conversation on the process, because I do agree that we can clean up process. This has been a pilot year. We could go through, we could identify better mechanisms, and we're going to be in the process. I've heard that already from staff on that in terms of looking at making it a less burdensome issue as it goes forward. My concern more so is on the stated purpose and the process. And really, I think there could potentially be some unintended consequences that I want to speak to, just because I'm quite concerned about where that could go. So from a stated purpose perspective, the FEDCO report to Council in June of 21 stated that the residential vacant unit tax will encourage homeowners to maintain, occupy, or rent their properties, thereby increasing the housing supply. The tax will also reduce the number of property standards issues by motivating property owners to exercise their options to resolve the outstanding issues. This is a behavioral tax. The purpose behind this tax is to change a behavior. And I don't disagree that we want to reduce the total number of vacant units across the city of Ottawa. We have some mechanisms to do that. We do have a bylaw that would look at vacant units, that looks at dilapidated units, and there are mechanisms with which residents or city staff can go through to deal with that through the bylaw process. And I would also offer that there's a short-term rental process that we could be looking at, perhaps with a bit more squeeze on that, if we're genuinely concerned about making residential units more accessible. The discussion about what we could do with those additional resources, I think, is a secondary discussion. And I think first off, we need to talk about the purpose of this and what we're trying to get out of it before we talk about how we're going to divvy up the resources that come. I don't think there's any disagreement. With more resources, we can do more good things with that, and I don't disagree with that comment. But my concern is, if we're going to be taxing folks, then we need to understand the implications of who we're taxing, why we're taxing them, and what the second order effects are. We've heard earlier a couple of case studies of a few folks in the city that were, arguably taxed in a way that I don't think the intent was there, whether it be for a person that has had an inheritance, whether it be for somebody that had a heritage site that they wanted to demolish. I have examples of that as well. But I think the issue that I want to also bring out is, if we're saying that we as a city are looking out 10 years at growing our residential housing stock by about 151,000 units, I'm assuming that a good proportion of those, to be successful in this endeavor, are going to be rental units. Do we have data? I guess this is a question to staff. Do we have data on how a vacant unit tax, which is an additional barrier to the entities that operate in the vacant or in the rental market space, how they will be implicated over the next 10 years, or if this could potentially have adverse effects to our intent to try and grow the rental market commodities within the city?
Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure I clearly understand the question, but I guess the intent again is to get more stock in the market. So in terms of data, that's what one of the fundamental framework goals is of this program, is to get more of those units back into the market. So I'm not entirely sure if you want to rephrase your question or be more specific.
No, for sure. I can clarify, and I apologize if it wasn't in the first place. I understand that motivating an individual that or corporation that has a vacant unit through taxing them will motivate them to do that. I'm talking about going forward over the next 10 years, if we're looking at developing additional housing stock, and some of that will be rental unit, are there potentially actors in that space who would be disincentivized to investing in future growth of housing stock as a result of a potential barrier like the vacant unit tax?
Mr. Mayor, I'll put my economic lens on that. I think fundamentally if you're going to develop more rental stocks in your market as a developer or as an investment opportunity, the goal would be to rent that unit. So I think it would not be an adverse effect. I think the goal would be to get more units in the market so you can leverage the rental market and maximize your investment through rentals.
So if in the future we believe that that the actors or the landlords would be incentivized to rent out units and not have them vacant, it probably makes sense that in the present they want to do that as well. So my concern there would be, I acknowledge in 2019, 2020, we had a significant spike in the market as a result of low interest rates, a lot of people purchasing, a lot of speculation. But I think as a part of the regular market cycle, we've seen that ease off. I don't disagree whatsoever that a corporation who's profit motivated is going to look to build housing stock where they think they can make a profit, whether it be through sales or through rentals. But if in the future they're going to be wanting to house and to get occupants in them, it just makes sense that they would want to do it in the present as well. So in some ways, I think that the solution we have of the vacant unit tax is a solution in search of a problem, because there are other mechanisms that we have here, such as the vacant unit bylaw. And perhaps if we strengthen that, or if we were to look at short-term rentals as well, which I know in my ward I have a significant concern with. There are many residential areas where we have significant short-term rentals, which I think could potentially be better used elsewhere. So from that perspective, I'm supportive of the Dudas motion. Thank you.